This is video lecture chapter 18, microbiology. Microbiology is the study of organisms, micro meaning microscopically small, and bio meaning living organisms. Dental assistants need a foundation in microbiology to understand the nature of pathogens and how to prevent transmission of disease within the dental office. There are two major oral diseases. They are bacterial infections, as in dental caries, decay, and periodontitis. Some of the pioneers in microbiology are going to include Aristotle. He believed that life arose from muck, decaying food, warm rain, or even dirty shirts. Antony von Leeuwenhoek used a primitive microscope to observe stagnant water. John Tyndall discovered some bacteria existed in two forms, a heat-stable form and a heat-sensitive form. And then Joseph Lister, he was the first to recognize the role of airborne microorganisms in post-surgical infections. Some more pioneers, Robert Koch, developed a two-part dish for growing bacteria and a technique for isolating pure colonies of bacteria. Julius Petri plates, dishes used to isolate bacteria colonies. They were named after him. And Louis Pasteur, the father of microbiology, developed the process of pasteurization and discovered the first vaccine for rabies. Here's an example of a Petri plate. Koch pustules, microbial microbial agent must be found in every case of disease. The microorganism must be isolated and grown in pure culture, must cause the same disease when inoculated into a susceptible animal, and the same microbial agent must be recovered from the inoculated animal. Major groups of microorganisms include bacteria, rickettsia, algae, protozoa, fungi, rhizins, and viruses. Bacteria is a large group of one-celled microorganisms that vary in shape, size, and arrangement. Pathogenic bacteria usually grow best at 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit in a moist and dark environment. Skin, respiratory tract, and gastrointestinal tract are inhabited by a great variety of harmless bacteria. This is called normal flora. Infection occurs when bacteria occurring naturally in one body part invades another and then becomes harmful. Bacteria has a couple different shapes: spherical, rod shaped, and then spiral. Gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Hans Christian Gram developed a four-step straining process for separating bacteria into groups. The straining requires a sequential use of crystal violet dye, iodine solution, alcohol solution, and saffron dye. The bacteria that are strained by the dye are classified as positive if they're dark or purple under a microscope. The bacteria are not consistently stained are classified as a variable. Here's examples. Need for oxygen. So aerobes are a variety of bacteria that require oxygen to grow, and anaerobes are bacteria that grow in the absence of oxygen and are destroyed by oxygen. Facultative anaerobes are organisms that can grow in the presence or in the absence of oxygen. Capsules, some type of bacteria form a capsule or protective layer that covers the cell wall. So this is going to increase the bacteria's ability to resist the defense mechanisms of the body, and also prevent antibiotic agents from having an effect on that bacteria. Some bacteria change into highly resistant form. This is called a spore. Bacteria remain alive in the spore but are inactive. Spores represent the most resistant form of life known and can survive extremes of heat, dryness, and even the presence of disinfectant and radiation. Harmless spores are used to test the effectiveness of techniques for sterilizing dental instruments. Rickettsia is a short, non-movable rod that lives normally in the intestinal tract of insects like lice, fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes. Very small and require a host cell to reproduce. Diseases caused by rickettsia include typhus and Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Algae range from microscopic single cell organisms to larger multiple cell organisms like seaweed and kelp. All algae contain chlorophyll as well as pigments that cause them to appear a yellow, green, brown, or red. And they're found in the abundance in both freshwater and marine habitats. Most algae don't produce human disease. We'll talk about protozoa next. So this is a large group of single-celled organisms. Some can remain viable as cysts for long periods outside the host. Most don't cause disease, but some live in hosts and do cause damage. A number of protozoa are responsible for intestinal infections in human beings, and others can invade blood, lung, liver, or brain. Fungi, it's a plant such as mushroom, yeast, molds, and they do lack chlorophyll. Candida is a common yeast found in oral cavity of about half of the population. It's also found in the gastrointestinal tract, female genital tract, and sometimes the skin. Cross infection may occur between mother and baby amongst infant siblings. Oral candidiasis is caused by yeast. All forms of candidiasis are considered opportunistic infections, and they're found in patients who are very young, very old, or very ill. This is categorized by white membranes on the surface of the oral mucosa, tongue, and elsewhere in the oral cavity. Looks sort of like cottage cheese and can be wiped off to reveal a raw and red, sometimes bleeding base. Prions, small protein infectious particles composed entirely of proteins and lack nucleic acids, DNA, or RNA. Until the discovery of prions, it was believed that any agent capable of transmitting disease had to be made of genetic material composed of nucleic acid. Convert normal protein molecules into dangerous ones simply by causing the normal ones to change their shape. They're a new and separate class, unlike bacteria, fungi, viruses, and other known pathogens. Diseases of prion include mad cow, linked to human diseases such as Crutchfield-Jacobs disease. Prion-caused diseases have been found in human beings and in animals, highly resistant to heat, chemical agents, and irradiation. No treatment or vaccine against prion diseases, and only preventative measure is not eating suspect food. Viruses are much smaller than bacteria. New and increasingly destructive viruses are being discovered and have caused the creation of a special area within microbiology called virology. Viruses can live and multiply only inside an appropriate host cell. So it could be human, plant, animal, or bacterial. A virus invades a host cell and then replicates and destroys the host cell. Virus latency. So some viruses establish a latent dormant state in host cells. A latent virus can be reactivated in the future and produce more infective viral particles, followed by signs and symptoms of disease. Treatment of viruses cause many clinical significant diseases in human beings. General antibiotics are ineffective in preventing or cultivating viral infections, and even a few drugs that are effective against some specific viruses do have limitations. Transmission of viral diseases are transmitted by the following means, so direct contact, insects can transmit viruses, blood transfusions, contaminated food or water, and inhalation of droplets exposed by coughing or sneezing. Viruses are easily destroyed in the external environment, so chemicals like bleach, iodine, phenol, formaldehyde easily, accessibly, and effectively destroy viruses on surfaces and then also on objects. These agents, however, are too toxic to be used internally.